I'm Stefano Cantarelli from Mavenir. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer. First time in my life to be a marketing, always been technical, operating, whatever. So I got the license to actually show you a video to start for. It's 2 minutes. It's fantastic to have people to do slides for you. It never happened in my life, but here we go. So I'll get you this video first, and then we'll go through some details. All right, why using a video? Because I think sometimes it's the best way to explain what the concept is. And actually, this is a bit more than a concept, but just to show you what we mean by LTE enterprise. Now, why this LTE enterprise is actually you've seen our Dallas premises, and you've also seen some of the latest haircut in the US, some interesting haircut. Why this LTE enterprise is within the edge concept, right? Because that's important, not necessarily. The radio has always been at the edge because that's the nature of mobile networks. But there is something more that I would like to explain you and give you some details. I think Paul showed us some distribution of infrastructure and where are the likely points, and we are seeing that, of course, close to the enterprises and close to the users is actually the most probable where they are going to be deployed. So first of all, remember that this is all empowered by what we have been discussing these days, which is virtualization, which is open interfaces, which is distributed, which is common hardware, COTS hardware, and this kind of things. So in the old days, we had today, let's say, we have hardware which is difficult to scale, solution architecture which is difficult to scale down, built mainly for centralized large capacity, which is still remain in the future. Is not to be discontinued. That kind of concept of centralized, but the future, is more about being virtualized servers running multiple applications. And being really for scale up and also down, because when you want to distribute, you don't want to have monsters to run a small application. And also centralized, but also distributed. So it's trying to encounter more cases than what the today architecture is. First of all, one key component is packet core. And you would say, well, why you need to have packet core down on the edge? Well, first of all, because latency. Some enterprises may have some very restricted latency requirements, and for that one, of course, you want to distribute it as close as possible. Then you can reduce costs by having caching to avoid all traffic to a central location, and maybe spread it out straight into internet where you are. In some other cases, is improve customer experience. I think the caching is the same example about augmented reality, virtual reality with latency. Split control plane, user plane. Sometimes the control plane can be locally, the user plane can be locally, but the control plane can still be in a remote place. We're thinking of a situation where this is not just the enterprise will do their own network. This is also a scenario when operator provide services to the enterprise. So make it very clear, Mavenir is a supplier who actually support the operators in this new business model. So here we are talking about new different models, and these architecture help you to achieve some of these in the most efficient way. Of course, private IoT networks, and also combined capabilities with RAN and VEPC that makes it easier. So what we are interested in now here, we need a small footprint. We cannot just establish a central office at the LTE premises, right? Even if some enterprises got a big center, but this is meant to be small, have a very small footprint. Also, we're talking about the radio components, right? Radio components cannot be just a base station as we today know it, right? We go in an antenna on the site, and we see a big pole, huge antennas, and cabinets on the bottom, right? I built so many that I forgot. Actually, what I do, I always go on a place where I go, I always look for a base station. Yeah, that's what was really annoying my wife, you know. But this is a new concept, right? And we want to have white box LTE, which means industry-based white boxes, you know, standard radio unit, antenna unit, which, by the way, are the guys who provide in this kind of infrastructure as well to the traditional legacy most of the time. Oh, sorry, what's that? Okay. And then you have a concept of universal CPE, of course, that makes the multi-vendor approach easier, lower cost, always based on cost platforms, and the whole mobile infrastructure and convergences, you know, which give us ability to scale down with the VMs in order to manage more an enterprise size. You know, we need to understand that an EPC on a big operator runs, I don't know, for 10 million customers, you may need about 200 server. For an enterprise, you may need the 2 core within 1 server. That's a big difference. Most of EPC today scales up, which is what they have to do, but many of them cannot scale down. So that's a new era. And last, I want to mention CBRS LTE license frequency, because I wanted to make clear, if there is in the room either enterprise people or operator, this is not to actually praise one model rather than another. We're just talking what this edge and this virtualization enable. New models to think about whether operator can actually take advantage of, or if they don't, because unfortunately in the past operators have not taken advantage of certain opportunity to make more revenues, where the enterprise can be faster and actually serve their own purposes, which really is a business purpose. For doing their business, they need actually to be faster and have a better communication. I support entirely Paul when he says that LTE has a better capability in mobility. Mavenir has a long history in voice over Wi-Fi, and we found out that most of the reason why voice over Wi-Fi is not working very well has nothing to do with your core, with your whatever, your gateway. It has to do mainly with the radio capabilities of Wi-Fi, mainly in the mobility space. If you are very good coverage of Wi-Fi, you stand there, you don't move, that's no problem. But if you start moving around in your office and so on, or in your house, that becomes the problem. These slides, you recognize, is not Mavenir, it's Intel. This tells what enables from the hardware point of view. Because, of course, we say we are a software company, but we do need the hardware, right? But hardware now is a new thing. Hardware now is a common infrastructure, a COTS, as we used to call it, that will enable and we give enough processing capacity to do everything that is needed that before was required to be done in hardware. What is this zero touch? You'll see it in the video, right? It looks very simple, and actually it is as simple as such. But of course there is a bit of preparation behind, right? Everything comes with some preparation. It's not just like you come and go and do it without really having done anything. And what is the whole flow is that fundamentally the idea of the enterprise, LTE enterprise in this case, is that you don't really need, well, the only thing you need is make sure that when your DHL guy come in, you got someone to pick up what they deliver, which is most of the big problem. But enterprise, normally you got a reception, so you got someone in front. How does it work? You know, when you receive actually an order, the specific hardware that has been chosen, because, you know, sometimes you can choose one type of hardware with another type of hardware, I mean, one manufacturer versus another manufacturer, they would actually preload and pre-configure whatever are the operating systems, the image, and the virtualized layer on top of it, and then we preload some parameters for that specific application you're looking for. That will be then transferred, and then when we got to the premises is installed, if you think of the radio, for example, you will think, how is the radio complexity in installing? It's very much will be like a Wi-Fi, because we're not going to look at the very super optimized and detailed configuration for the radio. It will probably be a bit estimated in the sense that you may have one more access point in LTE than you normally have if you plan it from outside. But that's not a big problem because the power involved, of course, is different. So it will be very much something that an IT infrastructure guy can do as he does today for a Wi-Fi infrastructure. And then we got all the right security in exchanging the right parameters to make sure that they are downloaded. You have seen in the video, it was called Cloud Range. Cloud Range is nothing but the Mavenir specifically VNF manager and VNF orchestration part. It's just our trademark. And that allows us to make sure the configuration transfer is activated, and at that point then you have your orchestrations and your service ready to go. Now, whether this is all local, whether this is partly distributed, depends on the model. If you have your own network, like in this case we're saying, so you build your own infrastructure, that infrastructure actually will be all local. Very likely, and that will interact and will actually serve a purpose of serving any carrier. Because you remember you have coverage inside, but when you go outside, you need to roam with someone else. You can't provide the roaming outside. The enterprise can own that, or if instead it is provided through the mobile operator, then maybe there will be only an extension. So likely the user plane will actually be deployed in the enterprise, while instead actually the control plane will still be residing in the big core of the operator. And you can integrate it with existing distribution antenna system, if this is the case. You know, that's another possibility you can do. It's fully compatible because it's like having a normal Node B, or whatever we want to call it. And all the functionality will be on a compute platform. As I said before, just one little note on something that is interesting. Why user plane? You may want it to have it locally on the edge. That's another business case if you want for cloud edge or for mobile edge computing, as you want to call it. And today, a lot of business cases are seen on saving money. So just think you got a lot of data. I had seen a very interesting example of that. There was a video surveillance site that was doing face recognition. And as soon as you recognize the face, then it activates the function toward the central. So what happened is this, that it does everything local. All the traffic is kept local. But then, so there is a local EPC packet core node. It recognizes things, and as soon as it recognizes, open the flows to the central control location. And so it reduced the minimum traffic flows and optimized the cost. On top of that, think about other scenarios like that encapsulated traffic on the LTE is a very heavy header. So you could actually break out the traffic, terminate it immediately, and save a lot of money. We did some studies with U.S. carrier, and we found out they could delay their investment of packet core of about 2 years and a half if they started to speed the traffic, avoiding encapsulation of the traffic on a GTP tunneling. Well, to conclude this, I would say, I've used this word, something is moving. It's moving to the edge, of course. Some dedicated resources, some are centralized. Not necessarily everything needs to be located on the edge. There is definitely a cost reduction we're looking at. We're looking at agility. We're looking at faster time to market, maybe finally. We don't know, but maybe finally. And we're looking at new business models in addition to traditional. What I meant is that there is a new business model where actually operators can actually work with the enterprises in a more effective way, where they allow them to have some infrastructure but still provide some of their. I was talking to some Telefonica guys in the past, and they would say, yes, we will allow the enterprise to do something, and then we control them from our core infrastructure and still provide some LTE services from our side. All in all, and I want to stress this because I've really been fed up through this conference to hear about complexity. This is less complex, or at least is no more complex than when we were doing voice, we were doing packet, GPRS, and all those kind of stuff. It's just different. It's just different, but it's also better. So my last question, if you remember, there was a famous song of Elton John, was Are You Ready for Love? In this case, it's not love, it's living on the edge. But that's what we are saying. Are we ready? Because the main reason for us is being ready for it. The technology is there. It's just for us to make it happen. It's for our organization to take it and make it happen. Thank you very much. Of course, if you have any questions, sorry, I was trying to make sure that I don't delay too much, so I recover a bit. So if you have any question, I'm here, so please.
Do you expect the white box base station?
White box?
Base station.
Absolutely.
You expect?
I expect.
On the market?
Absolutely.
Yes?
Absolutely. 100%. Today. Today. Sorry, the question was, I expect white box base station.
Yeah, okay.
And the answer is absolutely. I can tell you the Mavenir today is already going not only on proof of concept, but it's going live with some white boxes stuff.
I'm talking about the base station, not the core.
Base station.
Yeah.
You know the Mavenir does run as well.
Okay. I don't know.
All right, great. So I should have put a big slide here, and I just finished this. Thank you so much for giving this golden plate. Mavenir is an end-to-end, 100% software provider to mobile networks. We provide anything from VoLTE voice Wi-Fi down to RAN. Of course, vBBU, and we use white box ROU and antennas for our RAN. And we are now deploying in big operators in a lot of areas. We are trying all those concepts. So that's for LTE premises. And please, my recommendation is always the same. Just go and do it. It's time to act, not to think anymore. Thank you very much.